All right, so today we're going to dive into the metaverse once again with a project named Zilliqa. You've probably seen it on our channel before, and really what we're going to do here is dive in a little deeper. We've got a special guest joining us today. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to TechPath. Joining me is Sandra Helou, who has had really this is kind of a new job, I think. I'm starting to see more and more people in the blockchain space, and that is head of NFT and Metaverse. Great to have you on the show.
Thanks, Paul. It's great to be here. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And I completely agree. This is a new title that we're going to see more of as we enter the space and industry. So exciting times for sure.
Yeah. For our audience, Sandra, let's go into a little about where Zilliqa is today, the project, what it's trying to do in general. It's a pretty expansive project. You've got a great team behind it. Tell me where Zilliqa's current status is.
Of course, I think Zilliqa has a lot of exciting times ahead of it. Once we first launched in 2017, Zilliqa was known for its sharding technology. Mm-hmm. And, I guess majority of the community and markets do know us as the leaders within sharding. And as we're progressing now, I guess you can say we're focusing majorly on the creator economy and how we're pushing forward with that. A big part of what we're doing is going to be focusing on not only innovating the space, but also onboarding new users into the blockchain world. Not only for Zilliqa, but also with initiatives such as an NFT marketplace, with the metaverse that we're rolling out, and also a core focus on bringing on board esports partnerships and bridging out into all of the individual creators and helping them onboard into our world as well. So, Zilliqa is definitely one of these projects that I think if you don't know about it now, you will in the next couple of months or year, hopefully.
I like it. Well, the fact that we're able to get you on to talk about this early stage development being, the evolution of where Metaverse is going, and also kind of the component I think that is going to be most interesting is what solutions, what protocols out there that are able to really make this happen, I think is going to be the big next step. Obviously, the fact that you guys have already dedicated your role into this, it's a serious position for Zilliqa and kind of where you're going in terms of direction. Talk to me a little bit about Metapolis, kind of the idea of what the metaverse will look like within Zilliqa.
Yeah, sure. So, I think the project as a whole is very interesting. Just tying back into Zilliqa's purpose and what we're looking at doing, a big part of what we want to achieve is to bridge that gap between the physical and digital worlds. And I think you will find that as I'm talking more about our initiatives and what Zilliqa is doing, you'll find that a lot of us are looking at how can we onboard more people into this world. And the best way to do that is not only through the metaverse, but there's a big gap between people who understand crypto, people who want to know more about crypto, and people who are still confused between what role the blockchain, crypto, and this digital virtual world can play in their lives, and how can they infuse it into their strategy and business. So with Metapolis, a big part of what we wanted to achieve was bridging that gap. So what we're telling people in general, or industries even, is look at it more as a layer of engagement rather than a world that you enter and simply just leave. We look at Metapolis as a way for onboarding users and having them interact with individuals, with brands, with people that they're interested in being a part of their world. So for us, Metapolis is definitely one of these projects that we want to extend on for the long run, not only for a short period, because as you move on and innovate, you'll be adding a lot more technology, you'll be adding a lot more features. So yeah, definitely something to look out for. I think with all the partnerships that we have that I mentioned before, with Zilliqa looking at esports, we're also venturing into a partnership with a music company. I think if people who follow us, they know that we recently launched a partnership with Token Tracks, who are heavily involved. So in the future, within Metapolis, you'll be able to see concerts happening. I can see the video playing, and one of the interesting things about that is what you're seeing here is actually already a built environment. So this isn't just edited videos. This is already an environment that you can enter, play around with, and interact with, which I find very interesting, because if you look at the way things are progressing in regards to building out a metaverse, you do want it to be able to adapt quickly to what you need, not only as a brand, but also as an individual, to have your own space and how that space interacts with you and with others that you invite into it through, avatars and your digital identity.
Yeah. When you talk about, and I want to exit off the video there for a second, but when you talk about the creator economy, because this is something that we're seeing a handful of metaverse projects really kind of focus on is, obvious creators. You see it in the sandbox component in terms of creating avatars and digital assets, all that sort of stuff. Then you look at influencers going into projects like Blocktopia. So there is a little bit of a layer here that seems to be developing around the key contributors to what the metaverse will eventually launch on. It's much like what happened in the early days of the internet. You had the early adopters that kind of helped build the framework or the rails of where the internet would truly launch off and become what it is today. Is that how you guys see the pickup for the metaverse in terms of adoption, being able to get people to understand what it is, how to use it, the tool sets, the strategies, et cetera? What's the kind of the component there from a creator economy standpoint?
Yeah, so you touched on something that's very interesting, which is, the other kind of metaverses that exist. I think there won't be one overarching metaverse. There will be a lot of metaverses, and we're already seeing that each metaverse has its own vision, its own strategy, and its own definition of what a metaverse actually is to them. I think the term now is being kind of thrown around a lot, and it applies differently to each project and to, how each project wants to use it. For us, the onboarding, like I said, it relies heavily on how people are going to enter into the space. The metaverse or Metapolis has a big part of AR integrated into it. So that means that, bringing in whether it's QR codes or tapping into it as a platform, service as a platform, you are able to integrate things such as e-commerce, such as play to earn models, such as very heavy customization through NFTs for your own avatars. So these are aspects that will generally help integrate into people's strategy or brand strategy. Therefore, the access or the ability to enter into the metaverse or Metapolis that they choose to have, their city, there's no barrier to entry because you are looking at it more as a social media aspect, right? So you have a tag, you have a personalized tag, you tap into it, and then there you are. You're already immersed into their world. We're paying a lot of effort into how personalization plays into this because I think that's a key factor. Before, when Instagram came out, you had your tag, people were able to follow you, see your content that you put out. And this is essentially the same way that we want it to be. You have your city, you have your tag, you share it with your customers, with your clients, and they enter into your world. So we have built it in a way where you have your cities, and then within the cities, you have your domes or your areas around you. So that can be for partners, for athletes, for whatever industry you're from. You can space it out and build your own world. So that should help with the onboarding and ease of entry.
Okay, good, because I want to talk about that. There are a lot of questions I have for you in terms of kind of the structure, the strategy of how you guys are going to roll out. But one quick question: most of what we're seeing here in terms of the video side of things that we've just been showing on screen, this has a lot of that VR AR component. Now, is this something that you feel is more just going to be the screen aspect of it, much like, say, a sandbox game or what we see in traditional blockchain today? Or do you see this rolling out into something that is an AR VR experience? What's the strategy for you guys around this?
Yeah, sure. So for us, it's Metapolis itself is XR. So you can enter it through web. You can enter it through, down the track, we will also have an application just for a better use of graphics. And you can also enter it through VR or AR. Me personally, I'm a fan of AR because, like I said previously, it makes that barrier to entry easier for you. I've been at the airport before testing an environment and just literally holding my phone, walking around through this dome, and people behind me are seeing what I'm seeing.
Right.
You can open up, imagine walking down the street, you scan a QR code and then you are able to open into AR, a metaverse. That in itself is how we envision and how we would like to see the future of interaction happening between the physical world and the digital world.
Yeah, I think with the recent news, obviously CES is going on right now as we film this video, and one of the big narratives at CES this year was the metaverse. You have NVIDIA, which has created their new Omniverse concept. You also have, at the same time that all this is happening, you've got Facebook/Meta that are actually dropping the AR VR component, meaning they're probably focusing more on the XR side of things when it comes to kind of the early stages of metaverse. So maybe that's a focus issue. I'm kind of curious as to whether or not, but I'm also a fan of augmented reality and what that might look like in the future. We haven't seen any real case uses yet that have been mainstreamed, but I feel like it's just maybe a year away before we start to really see some of this occur. And I think you guys are onto something with that kind of approach. What is the timeline for Zilliqa and your plan for getting Metaverse and your project rolling? Roadmap, et cetera. When will we start to see those things come out?
Sure. So what the video that we launched before Christmas was simply an introduction video saying, look, we're here, we're going to be doing this. It wasn't even number one on the roadmap. It was simply an introduction for us to say, look, Zilliqa's here, we're going to be making noise, keep an eye out for us. So the roadmap should be released come next week for Metapolis, and then the phasing will commence starting from January onwards. So it's bound to be a very exciting year as we start rolling out all of these features and onboarding our partners into the metaverse.
Okay, so let's talk about the experiences. What will be in the Metapolis metaverse? How is that engagement going to occur for a user? And then also talk to me about the economy. How's it going to work? Is it a play to earn or is it a digital asset play? What would be in it for me if I was to jump into this versus, say, another project?
Sure, that's a very interesting question because, again, it ties back down to if you look at what already exists, there are a lot of metaverses out there, especially now that are popping up. I think Decentraland taps into 2,000 daily active users. And I use the term active slightly because we're still not sure if they are active users or if they're just people who are logged in and they just didn't log off. So, one of the main aspects of building a metaverse is that you want to keep that interaction happening. You don't only want avatars filling the space. You want to make sure they are, they are moving, they are active, they return. One thing that we've paid attention to, and we want to make sure that it happens, is that we tie in very well with a brand's or an individual's strategy. So we work with them on how they can build out their metaverse strategy, how they can keep it active, how they can keep infusing new tech into it, new elements from NFTs to play to earn models to, even simple things such as customizing an avatar and the features that are allowed to happen. Within Metaverse, like I said, with Metapolis, you are able to now integrate e-commerce. So when I say integrate e-commerce, that's not a split experience. Through Metapolis, you are able to actually complete a purchase, whether it's some merchandise from a traditional brand or whether it's an NFT. Then we go down further.
So let me interrupt you there. I just want to make sure I understand that.
Yep.
You're talking about e-commerce, so into in real life goods as well as digital goods, or what would be the pass through, the gateway there?
Yeah, no, very good question. So obviously, for us to put it into the metaverse, it would need to have an element of 3D attached to it because that's how it's going to be displayed. But whatever asset that actually exists, we are able to turn it into an NFT, display it, and then obviously that sale will occur through Metapolis.
Gotcha.
I think that is a feature that not many other no other metaverses have. Right now, that experience is actually split. So if you do want to make a purchase, you have to kind of be transported to another site. The experience is a bit split because, you get lost between, do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? And then you never probably make your way back. So for us, we've made a lot of changes to that to ensure that you remain in the environment and that transaction occurs from within. That's from an e-commerce perspective. Then obviously you have advertising. I think as we move forward with the digital world, advertising will play a very important role and a very important part in what you are receiving and what people are actually showing you. Because now you're not simply viewing it, you can actually click through, interact with it, purchase it, or even be teleported to its own city or to its own dome. So advertising will also be very big for us. And the NFT aspect. NFT is very, very particular in how it's going to be displayed because everything within the Metapolis is actually an NFT. So the street is an NFT, the signage is an NFT, the avatar, the entire customization of it is an NFT. So you're actually able to customize them and personalize them in ways that you weren't able to prior or on any other kind of metaverse that exists currently.
Yeah, I have so many questions here. I want to get into this a little deeper because, all right, so advertising, yes, traditional. I think a lot of the projects out there, they are looking at the brand deals as being one of the part of the key components. Obviously, the conversion of traditional assets in real world to, translate that over to metaverse, it's kind of that evolution. I think about this as very similar. And when I try to explain this to people, I think, hey, if you were around in 2007 and had a Twitter account, people probably looked at you as, why do you need a Twitter account? And, is anybody ever really going to go there to watch your 140 character tweet? That was 2007. Obviously, we know that. We know where that kind of played out. Same thing is happening, I think, now in metaverse in terms of a social aspect. But from a point of commerce, that's been the big knock on traditional social media outside of the e-commerce world, because you're exactly right. Right now, if you just looked at how you're dealing with Instagram ads and being able to interact with something within an Instagram feed, you're jumping out into a different ecosystem for the e-commerce. So you are exactly right. I think if the metaverse and blockchain can solve that, it will be huge, and definitely a transition point, I think, for real world interaction, in terms of goods, digital assets, et cetera. With the tokens I'm going to be able to use within Metapolis, will it be Zilliqa, or will you guys have, will you use the governance token, or will it have an in-game or an in-metaverse token? What's the architecture there?
That's a very good question. So obviously, Zilliqa will have its own headquarters, and this again ties down to the personalization. Zilliqa will be the first L1 to have a headquarters within the metaverse. But again, if you are a brand entering, or for you, for example, if you want to have your own city, you are able to use your own token within your own city. So we're not holding people kind of, I guess, to Zilliqa. It is powered by Zilliqa, but obviously, you can launch your own token. This is kind of what's happening with our partnerships that are being launched. They have their own friend tokens that they will be used within their own cities. So you're able to infuse that into it. But I just want to kind of quickly touch point on what you said initially, which is that whole transition from traditional towards digital. I quickly, if I can, just want to tap into the marketplace that we're going to be launching as well, because there are a lot of NFT marketplaces that exist, but the main gap that remains is how are we going to bring traditional artistry into the digital world, right? I think with the emergence of NFTs, we've been really lucky in the fact that it's opened doors to a lot of creators or digital creators who previously weren't able to make revenue from their talent or their skill. Mm-hmm. That being said, we also have a lot of traditional artists who do beautiful canvases and who have, amazing photography skills and, so on and so forth, sculpturing, for example. How are they going to come into our world? With the marketplace we're launching as well, that's also up and coming in January, we have also bridged that gap. So again, it ties in with our vision of bridging that gap for the creator economy on onboarding traditional artists, galleries, curators, collectors, putting a big emphasis on collaboration and bringing them into our world. Because as you move forward with bringing people into blockchain, you cannot forget the ones who started out with the art. Right. Yeah. So they sort of miss out just because now we've moved digital. So just wanted to make that point.
Yeah, very good point. I want to ask you the transition of the assets themselves, because you're talking about creators coming into the space. Is this going to be something like what we see with Voxel over with Sandbox, where you would have an engine that you'd be able to create assets on? Or would these assets need to be rendered using maybe a partner like Render Token to do these digital renderings for the metaverse? What's the workflow for a creator to move assets into Metapolis?
Sure. So Metapolis is actually built using Unity and Unreal Engine. So it would be a very similar process to, exactly. We are actually going to be opening a dev stack. So that's something to look forward to, because we are opening up for designers, creators, and developers, saying to them, look, create whatever you want and import it into the metaverse and have that as part of your world. That integration does happen. So very exciting times, that's for sure.
I like it. Okay, so games, any kind of games that will be partnered with? Are you guys looking at developing your own layer of game, components within the Metapolis project, or how will that all kind of plug in? Is it a plug and play, much like what we've seen with other projects where they're just continuously adding to the landscape?
Yeah, so it really comes down to a user case basis. Like I said, because we allow a lot of personalization to happen in Metapolis, some partners are going to bring in, so our esports partners are going to bring in their own world when it comes to play to earns or the gamified aspect of it.
Okay.
Within the Zilliqa city, we're also going to be having our own, utilizing our ecosystem. The Zilliqa ecosystem is a very large, very growing ecosystem that has, a lot of Blocks SDK, for example, is one that is also connecting with Unity and bringing on board gaming into the blockchain and making that easy for people to interact with. So there's going to be a lot of infusion happening. And again, it just comes down to a user case basis. Depends on how you want it to be translated into your own world. We are able to adapt to it and bring it to life for you.
Okay, so you've talked about the marketplace, all this rolling out roadmap-wise. Is this all a 22 plan, or do you see this rolling into maybe a 2023 to get full, capability here?
Oh, this is all happening in the next 2 months. So everything I've mentioned is very much up and coming very quickly. So the NFT marketplace, Metapolis itself, obviously we will be phasing it out. There will be phases, but it will be open for the community to start tapping into it, for partners to be onboarded, and brands to start tapping into it as well.
Well, I definitely want to get you back on the show once you guys start to roll out on this, because I think this is right in our wheelhouse of some of the topics in our audience as we get into it. Last couple of questions here, more from the Zilliqa side of things. Let's talk about staking, because I was looking at some of the yields that Zilliqa is paying, very handsome yields. What is the best method and the best process to stake my ZIL today?
Staking ZIL, I think, is one of the best things anyone can do, in all honesty. Before I joined the Zilliqa team, I was part of the community, so I'm very fond of the staking that they have. The best way to do that, I would say, is I would direct you to the website. So it would be www.zilliqa.com. There is an entire section that goes intensively into how you can stake and what that staking can look like. We have a couple of wallets available. So there's ZilPay, there's Moonlit Wallet that allows staking into it. There's Atomic Wallet, which also allows for Zilliqa staking. And, we have a couple of others that are available. And yeah, there it is. So we're at 13.47% staking rewards. We also have a lot of DEXs which have launched recently. So XCAD, our, watch to earn ecosystem project, recently also allowed for a DEX, which means that you're able to also not only stake, but also take part more in the ecosystem and benefit from it. So there's plenty going on if you're not very familiar with what Zilliqa is up to.
Yeah, well, we've been following it for quite some time. We've done a couple of videos on Zilliqa in general, and I like this approach toward it. So did you guys partner with Ledger on this, I'm assuming, for the wallet aspect? Partner with Ledger on this for the wallet aspect? Or was it one of the tokens that Ledger had already credited to their device? The Ledger wallet?
No, I'm pretty sure it's one of the tokens that they already had accredited to their device. Yeah, I think that's a question that probably before I joined the team, so I'm not 100% sure about it.
Very cool. Excellent. Well, Sandra, this is good stuff. I love to see kind of the evolution of where all of this is happening. It's definitely going to be fun, especially as you guys start to roll out your project with the Metaverse. I'm going to be watching which Twitter feed should I follow the most, yours or Zilliqa?
We're one and the same. When I tweet, they retweet me. When they tweet, I retweet them. So whichever one you like, really. It's a very fun community to be a part of.
So there it is. And if you guys want to just jump over to the Zilliqa, it's just, of course, Zilliqa on Twitter. You'll be able to catch all of Sandra's moves and things like that. I can't wait to see some of the stuff that you guys are starting to roll out. So it's going to be fun to watch. But thanks again for stopping in on the show today. Appreciate all the insights. And we definitely want to get you back on the show as things start to move on.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Paul. It's been a pleasure.
You bet.
Big fan.
All right. So you guys listening in on the podcast, we love you guys over there. Thank you so much for the kudos, but the best place is to catch these great interviews and a lot of this insight in terms of the visuals, graphics, charts, insights that we do in terms of our predictions on some of our tokens. All that's happening over here on YouTube. So come over here and subscribe. Make sure and hit the bell so you get notifications of our live events that we do each day at 3 o'clock. And of course, if you want to reach me out on Twitter, it's just @PaulBaron. Catch you next time right here on TechPath.